Long history, unclear future for golden rice.
White rice is the world's most popular form of rice, but it goes through a milling process that removes many nutrients. As a result, people who eat a poor diet based on white rice may not get enough vitamin A. Each year, an estimated 250,000 to 500,000 children go blind from vitamin A deficiency. The World Health Organization says half of them die within a year of losing their sight. Vitamin A deficiency is a problem especially in Africa and Southeast Asia. So scientists thought of an answer. They combined white rice with plant compounds that the body can change into vitamin A. The rice contains beta-carotene and other carotenoids. These plant colorings give the rice a golden color. The scientists also thought of a plan to give away this golden rice for free to poor farmers. But the rice is genetically engineered. They say it cannot be made using traditional methods to breed plants. The scientists worked for 10 years until 1990 to develop the technology to add genes to rice. Then it took 9 more years to get the genes they wanted into the seed. The first field tests took place in 2004 at Louisiana State University in the United States. Golden rice is currently being tested in the Philippines. It is still not available for general use. Co-inventor Ingo Patrikas says rice with 2 added genes will be available in 2013. One gene comes from maize or corn, and the other from a soil bacterium. Mr. Patrikas is retired from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. He blames the delays on too many rules about genetically modified crops. Opponents say such crops may cause environmental damage by breeding with conventional plants. Opponents also question the safety of biotech foods. Mr. Patrikas says golden rice has never been shown to be unsafe for the environment or people. Many agricultural organizations support the project. But there are also critics, including researchers for the environmental group Greenpeace. Several months ago, they questioned whether golden rice could do much for vitamin A deficiency. They said releasing genetically modified rice in Asia could permanently change traditional rice varieties and wild ancestors of rice.
A school that teaches children to eat better.
About 1/5 of Americans age 6 to 19 are considered overweight. To reduce those numbers, some schools are teaching children to make better food choices.
So I can have spinach and what? Who can give me one combination? Spinach and, Diego? Eggplant. Eggplant, spinach and eggplant. So here's my first combination, right?
Hannah Chen is teaching the 8 and 9-year-olds in this math class in Washington how to make sets.
So we just incorporated food into different types of combinations. Like with the pizza, we had 2 types of toppings that the kids can provide, and figuring out the different combinations using those toppings.
The E.W. Stokes Public Charter School has started to include food topics in its 3rd grade math and English teaching. The school formed a partnership with Seedling Projects, an environmental group in San Francisco, California. Peter Nally is a curriculum director for the program called Farm to Desk. He says they are doing this in part to address the issue of childhood obesity.
One of the main components of our program is our belief that if kids are exposed to positive and healthy messaging about food throughout the instructional day, that has the most potential to impact long-term change.
School chef Makisha Day says the school buys most of its food from local farms, but the students grow some themselves.
They're replanting everything now so that we'll be using fresh herbs, fresh vegetables straight from our garden. So the children, they love it.
Teacher Hannah Chen agrees.
We have a salad bar at the school, and now the kids love the salad bar, and they love the fruits and vegetables. So I think it's making a big difference in their life.
She says the third graders have also learned to read the sugar and fat content listed on food packages. She says the E.W. Stokes Public Charter School in Washington plans to expand the Farm to Desk program to other grades next year. Charter schools get public money, but do not have to follow the same rules as traditional public schools. Many charter schools have specialized areas of study, like Environmental Charter High School near Los Angeles. Students learn the importance of protecting the environment. Rigo Estrada says he used to be the kind of person who threw trash on the street.
But now that I've seen firsthand videos, I've done beach cleanups, I've helped develop water catchment systems, I've taught elementary schools the importance of water conservation. I know the importance of green and that it actually is a really serious topic.
Students also learn how to prepare a business plan that they can use to help pay for college. They learn from teachers and outside experts like Nancy Gale. She owns an environmentally friendly business that makes handbags.
The idea behind the program is that if these kids see what they can do together and what they accomplish, that they recognize that their skills extend into the same real world as kids that go to successful private schools.
These three innovators changed the way we listen to music and read speeches.
Today, we tell about three inventors who died last month. Max Matthews, Norio Oga, and Hubert Schlafly all had a big influence on modern sound and communication technologies.
Max Vernon Matthews has been called the father of computer music. He created electronic tools so that people could use computers as musical instruments. He had a huge influence on the development of electronic music and how it is written, recorded, and played. In 1957, Max Matthews wrote the first computer program that enabled a computer to create sound and play it back. At the time, he was working as an engineer at Bell Laboratories in New Jersey. His computer program was called Music. It enabled a large IBM computer to play a 17-second piece of music that he had written. The computer was so slow it would have taken an hour to play the piece of music in 17 seconds. For that reason, Matthews moved the work to a tape player which could be sped up to play the music at a normal speed. He later said that the sound quality of the musical notes was not great, but the technical importance of the music was huge.
The science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke visited Bell Laboratories in the 1960s. He heard a computer sing the song Daisy Bell on devices and programs developed by Max Matthews and other engineers. Clark noted this technology in his book 2001, A Space Odyssey, which was later made into a movie. Matthews continued creating other versions of the music program. He became interested in how computers could help musicians outside recording studios. The Groove program he developed was the first computer program made for live performances. He also developed an electronic device he called the radio baton. The device looks like two drumsticks. It enables the user to control the speed and sound levels of orchestral music playing on a computer. The user does this by moving the two sticks on a special electronic surface.
Max Matthews had a long and productive career. He worked with composers like John Cage and Edgar Varese. He helped to create a Center for Research in Computer Music in Paris. And he taught at the Stanford University's Center for Computer Research in Music and Acoustics in California. Matthews told Wired.com that he believed modern musicians are not making full use of the power of computer music. He said a violin always sounds like a violin. But with a computer, the way a violin sounds is unlimited. He said he did not want computer sounds to replace live music, but he said he hoped laptop computers would one day be considered serious instruments.
This work had a surprising influence on the technology of recorded music. Sony Corporation official Norio Oga helped to develop the compact disc in the late 1970s. He strongly pushed for CDs to be larger and with a longer playing time. He wanted them to hold 75 minutes of music so that they could store all of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony on one disc. This way, listeners could enjoy the musical work without any break.
Norio Oga was born in Japan in 1930. He grew up playing the piano and taking singing lessons. He studied music at the Tokyo National University of Fine Arts and Music. His aim was to become an opera singer. As a young man, Oga reportedly owned a tape recorder that did not work well. He sent a letter detailing the problems to the manufacturer. The owners of the company were struck by his knowledge about music and technology. They asked him to serve as a part-time advisor. The company later became known as Sony. In 1959, Oga began working full-time with Sony.
He worked in the Sony design department and influenced the look of the company's electronic products. He also worked on advertising campaigns and what kinds of products it developed. Sony and Philips, another electronics manufacturer, worked together to create a new storage device for digital sound, the compact disc. The new technology had its critics, but Oga and others believed that the excellent sound quality of the CD would make it popular. Sony began producing CD recordings in 1982. The compact disc changed the electronics industry and the way people listened to music.
Norio Oga served as president of Sony starting in 1982 and chief executive officer starting 7 years later. He once said that leading a company was like leading an orchestra. He said a business leader had to work to build on the talents of the people in an organization, just like a director must work to bring out the best in members of an orchestra. Under his leadership, Sony expanded into music and movies. He believed that a company that made electronic devices should also make products to use with the electronics. Howard Stringer is the current head of Sony. He said that Norio Oga helped make the company an entertainment leader by pushing the company to make electronics as well as music, movies, and video games.
Hubert Joseph Schlafly was an electrical engineer who helped change the way actors, politicians, and other people speak on television. In 1950, he and 2 other men developed the teleprompter. One co-worker, Fred Barton, was an actor. He had an idea for a tool that would help television actors read their lines without having to memorize them. The other co-worker was Irving Kahn. He worked as vice president of radio and television at 20th Century Fox. The first teleprompter involved a person who turned a long piece of paper printed with tall letters. As the actor read the lines, another person would move the paper ahead on the device. The teleprompter was first used on a television program called The First 100 Years. Later versions used television screens to show the words that were to be read. Hub Schlafly and his co-workers believed that many companies would want to buy the teleprompter. So they left their jobs and created the Teleprompter Corporation to sell their invention.
In 1952, former President Herbert Hoover became the first politician to use a teleprompter. The former president was speaking to delegates at the Republican National Convention in Chicago. For a brief time, he stopped reading and began to talk about a subject not written in his speech. When Hoover wanted to continue the speech, the words on the teleprompter were not moving. So he called out for the device to restart. Many reporters wrote about that incident, creating a new level of publicity for the teleprompter. The teleprompter soon became popular with politicians who could use it to face the television camera while reading prepared statements instead of looking down at their notes. Soon, the devices were used for almost all live television broadcasts.
The Teleprompter Corporation also worked on developing new television and cable technologies. By 1970, it was the country's largest cable company. Hub Schlafly worked with Hughes Aircraft to develop video broadcasts using microwave transmission. He also helped organize the first use of a satellite to carry television broadcasts. Schlafly left the Teleprompter Corporation in the 1970s, but he continued working to support the development of satellite television.
In 2008, Schlafly became a member of the Cable Television Hall of Fame.
It's a great honor to be included as one of the recipients of the 2008 Cable Television Hall of Fame.
During his acceptance speech, Schlafly announced that this award ceremony marked another special event. It was the first time he had ever spoken in public with the help of a teleprompter.
In Africa, the greening of the Sahel.
Niger is located in the Sahel Desert, south of the Sahara. The West African country is largely hot, dry desert. But since the 1980s, Niger has gotten a lot greener. Around the world, trees are often cut down to clear land for bigger farms or more homes for growing populations. But in Niger, many farmers plant trees to protect their crops. They might cut some down, but often to sell the wood so they can buy food during a drought. Over the years, an agricultural advisor named Tony Renato has helped people in the Sahel learn about the value and care of trees. Mr. Renato says government officials and non-governmental organizations were not the ones who spread the idea.
Much of the responses actually come from the farmers and the communities themselves, as opposed to NGOs and the government. Once the farmers have embraced and accepted this technology, they've practiced it and they've shared it with their neighbours, and it's spread from farmer to farmer. So that's been very, very exciting.
Trees can provide a wind barrier. They improve the soil when their leaves fall, and they protect against soil erosion by holding moisture in the ground. Niger often has severe dry periods. Researchers say villages where farmers planted trees did better than others during a drought and food shortage in 2005. Mahaman Larwanu works for the group African Forest Forum. Mr. Larwanu says the villagers who had trees grew more food and could also eat fruit from fruit trees. And they could sell wood to buy food.
The population of these villages really survive better than those who don't have trees on their own farm, because they can cut wood and take to the big city to sell and get some money to buy cereals. And also they use the leaves and the fruit of the tree species just to survive.
In the past, the French colonists who ruled Niger had a policy of government ownership of trees. Not surprisingly, this policy did nothing to make farmers want to take care of a valuable resource that was not their own. In Burkina Faso, a farmer named Yakuba Sawadogo became internationally known for growing a forest. His neighbors resisted at first. They even burned his land. But later, they saw how trees could protect the soil against the spreading desert. His story is documented in a film called The Man Who Stopped the Desert. But Mr. Sawadogo says, in much of Africa, nobody is looking after our forests.
You are your brand, using social media to find a job.
Today, we share some ideas for job hunters about presenting yourself online. Ben Kirshner is chief executive of a New York company he started in 2004. Elite SEM, or search engine marketing, has about 25 employees. Many companies use headhunters, recruiting services that find workers for high-paying positions. But Mr. Kirshner says that can be costly.
For a $150,000 a year employee, it would cost me in a range of $10,000 to $15,000.
He saves money by advertising jobs online and using social media. Sometimes finding the right person this way can take time. But recently, Mr. Kirshner posted a job on the advertising site Craigslist. He says he had 150 good candidates within 4 hours. He says his company does not use sites that offer to search the web for information about job candidates. His company does that itself. Social networks and other websites can provide a lot of details about people's lives. As Ben Kirshner points out, that may even include personal information that employment laws prevent employers from asking.
Things we're not legally allowed to ask in an interview we can find because they're publicly displaying it on the social networks.
Leslie Stevenson directs the Career Development Center at the University of Richmond in Virginia. For young job seekers, she says, the barrier between public and private is changing.
In the past 2 years, candidates are not seeing social media as a place that we have to keep private from prospective employers, but as a tool that will assist in my search.
To do that, job seekers need to carefully develop their online image. Ben Kirshner says an important part of that is managing public and private details on social media.
You are your brand, so everything you do online reflects who you are personally and professionally.
He thinks a willingness to share experiences and skills will lead to a more open workplace.
I think there will be sites and services that will come out that will make people even more transparent about what they do at their jobs.
Even the kinds of links you share with other people on Facebook or other sites are part of your image. Image is one thing, but you also need skills. And career specialist Leslie Stevenson says that includes soft skills.
Soft skills are the skills that help people communicate in the workplace. They're all of the things that you bring to the table, such as your communication, how you interact both with your teammates, with potential clients.
The Mississippi River floods America's heartland.
The Mississippi River flows down the middle of the United States to the Gulf of Mexico. Right now, melted snow and heavy rains from the north are moving south. The result has been what some people are calling the worst flooding in 80 years in states along the Mississippi. In Louisiana, engineers are working to keep floodwaters away from two big cities, New Orleans and Baton Rouge. New Orleans is still recovering from the failure of its flood controls during Hurricane Katrina in 2005. A plan to direct some of the water into the Morganza Spillway means flooding rich farmlands in another part of the state. As many as 25,000 people may have to leave areas that would be flooded. Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal has been urging them to prepare to leave. The Morganza Spillway is about 75 kilometers upriver from Baton Rouge, the state capital. The spillway is a 32-kilometer-long channel that can take waters from the Mississippi to another river system. The spillway was used only once before, in 1973. Last week, the Army Corps of Engineers exploded a 3-kilometer-wide hole along an earthen levee in Missouri. They did that to protect river towns in two other states, Kentucky and Illinois. But 52,000 hectares of farmland were flooded as a result. The American insurance industry says natural disasters have already caused $5 billion in damage this year. A record number of tornadoes struck along a path from Texas to Georgia. The storms killed more than 200 people in 6 states. At the same time, states like Texas and Oklahoma are experiencing extremely dry weather and high winds that have caused wildfires. President Obama plans to inspect the flooding on Monday. He will visit Memphis, Tennessee, where the Mississippi River reached nearly record levels earlier this week. The river has been setting records in places like Vicksburg in the state of Mississippi. But experts say the situation would have been far worse if not for the levees, spillways, and other flood controls built along the river. These have been built since 1927, when flooding killed more than 1,000 people. In North Vicksburg, friends and family members have been helping Joanne Parks prepare to leave.
It's just a lot of things that's got to go. It's some of the things we got to go, and some of the things I don't know where we're going to store it. It's just hard. I know it's a lot of things we just not going to be able to save.
Vicksburg lies where the Mississippi and Yazoo rivers meet. There was an important battle there in 1863 during the Civil War, which still makes it a popular stop for visitors. The waters at Vicksburg are expected to reach their highest levels, 17.5 meters, sometime next week. Officials say 1,000 homes in the area could be flooded. 70-year-old Winston Holman has lived in Vicksburg all his life.
I've never seen the river as high as it is right now, and I hope I never see it get this high again, because it's hurting a lot of folks around here and a lot of businesses.